Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. I've never seen anything like this, and I've always been into politics, believe it or not, since the 6th grade. And I've never seen a president or any political figure, maybe I wasn't around then, even though I'm getting older, Winston Churchill back when, having amazing, times, pinnacle historical feats. But I have never seen an American politician having the last couple of weeks that Donald J. Trump has had, and especially with the big, beautiful bill that's in play now. And your thoughts, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, he has had a phenomenal few weeks. As we record this, the big, beautiful bill is back in the House because they now have to vote on the Senate's changes. And it only barely passed the Senate. It was a 50-50 vote, and J.D. Vance cast the tiebreaker to push it over. So this is not something that is overwhelmingly positive for the Republicans, but it is an important start. There are some big problems that I have with the bill. First of all, the fact that it's so huge. I hate omnibus bills. I think every bill should just be, this is what it does, this is how we pay for it, pass or fail, done. The reason they did it this way is so they could negotiate with all of the different parties and try to get it across. Also, they had to drop some things from the bill that the House had passed because the Senate parliamentarian said you can't keep those in and go through reconciliation. They don't qualify. So there were some changes. Overall,
let me just interject one thing, Dr. Lopkin, that maybe will even aid in the doctor's analysis. I heard an amazing point. The ex-senator from Pennsylvania, it escapes me right now, but anyway, he was on a panel and he was talking about Rand Paul and how him voting no sent this thing into a more precarious situation in the House, because now you had Murkowski from Alaska throwing some things in there like Green New Deal, stuff, blah, 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 that are more less attractive to the House. So I'll just throw that caveat, and now you can run with it, Doctor.
Yeah, I don't think the stuff that was tossed in is going to be enough to keep it from passing the House. It may cause some debate, but I think ultimately it will pass. But some of that is part of why I have a problem with the bill. There's still too much spending in it. They should have cut more. But on balance, we are much better off if this passes than if it doesn't, primarily because of the tax cuts. If this bill does not pass, 92%, according to the IRS, 92% of Americans will see a tax increase of up to 63%. And this isn't the 1% that it's going to hit, because it all boils down to the cutting in half of the standard deduction, which approximately 90% of the country takes advantage of. So
True.
this is going to hit the working class hard if it does not get passed. So
Can I
yes, I
throw one thing also in there? Sorry,
go
Dr.
ahead.
Lopkin, but in your comment on it, I also think because you're 100% correct, if it does not pass, given the tax implications, it will, I almost guarantee it, throw America into a recession. How do you like that?
Yes, you're right. The tax burden that it will impose by not if it doesn't pass will throw the US into a recession because it's going to be the highest tax increase in history. So
Yes.
that will cripple our economy. Now, that being said, Trump has been doing so much else to help boost our economy. We just got a trade deal with Vietnam. He,
Huge.
which yes, it was a major deal, and I know most people are going, well, it's Vietnam. It's a small country. We don't do a lot of
No,
trade.
no, no, no.
Why is it important? Because it's one more place for people to relocate manufacturing out of China.
100%, yes. And it puts more pressure on China. Again, it's playing 3D chess versus checkers to make a deal because also capital moves around globally, as you know, Dr. Lopkin.
Yes,
And it was moving to Vietnam anyway. This perpetuates it and puts China in a more precarious situation. How do you like that, Lopkin?
exactly. We also have the trade talks with Canada that came to a very abrupt halt because Canada was about to tax American tech companies like Netflix and Amazon a digital tax that now this is not an unheard of tax. It's for activities in their country. The EU has one, England has one, but unlike the other countries, Canada was going to implement this. It was scheduled to go into effect this past Monday and was going to be retroactive to 2022.
Wow.
So
Wow.
American companies were going to have to all of a sudden pay 3 years of taxes that they didn't have to. And Trump went, no, that's not going to happen. We're cutting off your trade talks until you repeal that. And I think it took them 24 hours to say, no, we're pausing that. We'll put it on hold. Let's have the trade talks.
Love it.
And,
How would
between
you assess Trump's 2 weeks? I mean, we're going to get into all the particulars. I say on a scale of 1 to 100, you got to give it a 9, in my opinion, 99. I think it's taken all the oxygen out of the room. What do you think, Lopkin?
it really has. And more than just what he's accomplishing with the bombing of the Iranian nuclear sites, with the increased trade deals, with him standing up to Canada, with the fact that now we are expecting two new signatories to the Abraham Accords. Trump has once and for all put an end to the Obama doctrine of, oh, we're going to lead from behind. No, you don't lead from
Appeasement, they
behind.
call it.
Yeah, you don't lead from behind. You lead from the front. And that is exactly what Trump is doing. And the NATO meeting was not the NATO, the G7 meeting was absolutely hysterical because you've got Trump going over there. No, I'm sorry, I was right the first time. It was the
It
NATO
was
meeting.
NATO.
Yes, it was the NATO
Your
meeting.
daddy.
Yes,
Your
where
daddy.
they're referring to him as dad's come home and he's putting the kids in their place. And that's exactly what he's doing. People did not seem to understand that under the Biden administration, not only was America rudderless, there was no leadership in the world. Everybody was just floundering. And now all of a sudden, America has taken the leadership role again, and people are falling into line. You're
May I ask
seeing,
you a question, Doctor? I want to ask you a question on that. historical. I believe it has never been more profound, America's leadership. Just my opinion. What is yours, Dr. Lotkin? I'm going back to Reagan.
I think, well, certainly in recent memory, I was a little young during Reagan's time, but
I got you.
I'm gonna say, Reagan was also up there.
Right up there, yeah.
But honestly, I don't think American leadership, other than the Reagan administration, has been this strong, possibly since World War II.
That's my point, and I agree with that 100%. And being older than you beats the alternative. I believe, actually, how do you like this? Reagan and Trump are very similar, not in a personality standpoint. It's because they were both filling vacuums. How do you like that,
Yes.
Dr. Lotkin?
Well, they both came into office under very similar conditions. We knew there were huge. We kept making comparisons between the Biden administration and the Carter administration, and certainly the malaise that everybody referred to, during the Carter administration was also present during the Biden administration, up to the point where Biden had that disastrous debate where that malaise actually turned to panic.
Agreed. Yes, I 100% agree. And it's very interesting. You talk about daddy. Daddy's coming home. You look at UPenn, apology, okay? You look at him just getting in the heads of everyone. I love this from a marketing perspective. The alligator Alcatraz. I mean, yes, I got it. Some of it has obvious, utility, but it's more, he's become a master of just not caring, not that he's frivolous. I don't mean that. And I'm quoting O'Reilly on that because there is no second term. He knows how to own the Democrats. Am I not correct?
He does.
You had Lawrence O'Donnell. Sorry, you had Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC. I'm glad it just happened to come by accident, and he was talking how horrible it is to be feeding people to alligators. I'm like, God, you gotta be kidding me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. But he owns their head, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been living rent-free in the Democrats' head since 2016. The difference is he came into 2016 very unprepared. He did not understand how deep the deep state went. He did not understand how he was going to have to collaborate with the other areas of government. And he did not understand who was an ally and who wasn't. He came in now absolutely prepared. He spent the last 4 years making sure he was prepared. He hit the ground running before the inauguration, and he hasn't looked back since. And
May I ask you a question, Dr. Lopkin, on that? Okay, this is kind of metaphysical, but you're certainly a person that can handle this. I think that 2016, his first administration, he was not unpopular. He was not ingratiated with America. I think he's become a pop icon. I really believe that. I think the first term, people were not really digging his act. I think people are starting to enjoy it, especially when we talk about Carter, Reagan, Biden, Trump. You had a 4-year deficit you had a walking corpse. I think people, even Democrats, don't want to admit it. The guy's funny.
Yeah, he does. Not unlike Reagan, he does know how to toss out a one-liner. He does have that timing, and he's out there. We got used to Biden being hidden behind the, closed doors, where, behind closed doors, he was a dynamo. In contrast, you've got Donald Trump going on Maria Bartiromo saying, I just got back from Europe. It's been a very busy 2 weeks. I'm exhausted. I want to make this a short interview. And that short interview was an hour.
Yeah, no question. No, again, we didn't have this in the pre-planning, but what do you think? I have my own opinion, but I defer to you for this one. How big of a scandal? I know we've talked about it. I want to belabor a point, but there's been people saying that this makes Watergate look like a non-event. That is the Biden cover-up. And there is even talk, I don't think it's going to happen, that Dr. Jill might be prosecuted. I do not think that's going to happen. But what do you, I mean, this is, in my lifetime, the biggest scandal. Watergate, BS compared to this.
No, this was a bigger scandal than Watergate, without question. And you're seeing a lot of liberals actually admit that, yes, this was a bigger scandal. Now, granted, a lot of them are admitting it because they've got tell-all books coming out and they want to sell the books. But you're seeing this massive shift. You had Bill Maher the other day saying how what the Democrats need to do is get The View to sit down and shut up. You've got tons of people, and you started to say people are starting to be enamored with Trump. Well, and yes, he is now an icon because he is the bad boy. He is fighting the machine. People did not believe that. He talked about draining the swamp, but nobody believed it because you had CNN, MSNBC, Facebook, Twitter, all talking about Orange Man bad. But over the course of the Biden administration, the facade fell apart. And now everybody went, oh, look at how they've been lying to us. And what really propelled Trump in the minds of many was the lawfare that was done while he was out of office. Because there was a huge percentage of African American males going, well, wait a minute, we never felt the justice system was fair to us, but look, they're doing the same thing to him.
Well, yes, 100% agree. But I think your bigger point, which is awesome, is the boogeyman theory. How do you like that one? Is in 2016 to 2020, it was deep state, and no one really believed it. It was kind of like, now people do believe it, and people are like, yeah. I mean, in other words, it was almost like the boy who cried wolf or yelling in the woods. It didn't really resonate. Now I think it really not with dyed-in-the-wool liberals because they're insane and they're part of it, but your average person's going, yeah, he got screwed, with these frivolous lawsuits, and even the value of his property. The judge was an ex-cab driver. He knows property values like I know astrophysics. It was. I think your point is well founded, more than well founded. I think it's resonating.
The lawsuits showed that yes, they were out to get Trump, and yes, there was a deep state. That was the first cracks. What blew it open was Biden's debate, because everybody went, wait a minute, they've been telling us he's running circles around them. They've been telling us, that he's brilliant, and everybody saw for what it was. And the simple fact of the matter is, the way government works, you can't have one person going, oh, the president's not competent, I have to keep this to myself. It requires a group of people to be shielding him, hiding him, scheduling him. So all of a sudden, people went, oh my God, Trump was right. The deep state is real.
Do you know something? That will be in history books, I can assure you. A teacher 50 years from now, it'll be the McCarthy situation only 50 years from now, is that all of a sudden it was that deep state, fake news, and then for all the world to see, oh my God, it's true. And you couldn't do it any other way but that. In other words, the impact could not have been more profound seeing it with your own eyes.
Right, because it wasn't somebody telling you there was a deep state or telling you, well, Biden's incompetent. He came out and everybody saw it with their own eyes. And of course, what made it even more impactful was the fact that the next day, the Democrats scrambled. Oh, he had a cold. No, no, no. He was fine. And everyone's going, no, no, we watched it. That's not a cold.
Listen, yeah, okay, you're a business person. You've had colds. You just gotta plow through it, dude. I mean, no, it's not a cold. It was dementia. How do you like that? But we talk about getting in the head. I have a lot of liberal friends. I think it's hysterical. When he launches the merchandise, I think it's just one more little pinprick in their little brains. Like he's got the cologne. I think it's just another way of effing with you. Do you agree with that?
Well, part of it is. Part of it is actually self-defense because presidential merchandise is nothing new. What makes it different this time is that Trump is actually exerting some control over it, or at least the Trump organization is. I don't think he's personally involved in any of it. It's his companies that are doing it. We've seen presidential merchandise for decades. Halloween costumes with presidential masks. The one that I will never forget was the Chia Obama head. Because once you are in public office, you're a public figure, and people are allowed to do what they want with your likeness, which is why there's always been this presidential merchandise. But Trump is, I know everybody knows Trump for real estate, but the truth of the matter is, even within his real estate, Trump is first and foremost a marketer.
No doubt.
That is what he's doing. And if you take a look at everything he does, there's a marketing spin to it. That was one of the reasons that when the Israeli-Iran ceasefire didn't quite take effect yet, and they were still, lobbing missiles at each other, he went off because it wasn't the image that he was trying to create. And that actually ended up working in his favor because he went off. He had a conversation with Netanyahu, and Netanyahu, I get it. Okay, we'll pull back, and they did, and the ceasefire held.
Yes, I do. My only nuance of that would be chia pepper. Yeah, it was kind. But I think it's also when I listen to my liberal friends, it's kind of like because liberals always think of themselves as above the fray, the elite intellectually. They went to this school, that school, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of like cologne and shoes. It's just getting under their skin. He's not publishing the world book, okay?
Right. He's selling merchandise to average Americans.
Yes.
He's selling the stuff that you would pick up at a department store.
Exactly.
But that was the whole key to his election, was he wasn't reaching out for the elites. He wasn't trying to kowtow to Wall Street. He was reaching out to the working class. That's why you had unprecedented union membership supporting him, because he wasn't saying, well, we know what's best for you. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of it. He was going to these places and listening. And he was going to places like Harlem, like union meetings, where the Democrats kept telling these folks, oh, we know what's best, and never showed up in their neighborhoods.
100%. Talk about condescending attitudes. That's pretty condescending. But also he talked about the marketing aspect, but there's also the substance. And there's no way to get around that. You look at the so-called experts well, the stock market's going to crash under him. It's over. It's over. I know people that have actually pulled out. I think they regret it now. Look at the market, right? And look at the Congo and Rwanda. That conflict has been going on, a bloody, brutal conflict. These are real things.
Yes.
I mean, Obama got a trophy for showing up. That is the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump, look at what he's done. You can't dispute it. It's impossible. And one more thing before we comment. If the big, beautiful bill passes, I think it's check, please. How do you like that?
Yeah, I mean,
that'll be the end of the end.
Yeah, take a look at the actual accomplishments. Okay. Yeah, Congo and Rwanda. This has been one of the bloodiest wars in human history. And it has been going on for 30 years. And Trump stepped in and went, enough is enough. We're getting a peace deal done. And the mainstream media just ignored it. They didn't even, they don't even talk about it.
Of course.
You have Syria and Lebanon, two countries that up until recently were pledged to the destruction of Israel. They are expected to sign on to the Abraham Accords.
Who are those countries again? I'm sorry for our audience.
Syria and Lebanon.
A monumental. How do you like that?
Yes. Then you take a look at the economy and the markets. Okay, inflation has been dropping, which, remember, under Biden, it hit record highs. So we've got inflation dropping, gas prices dropping. They're actually lower now than at any point during the Biden administration. You have
going lower.
Yes, you have the S&P 500 just hit an all-time record. You've got the Dow Jones Industrial Average on a winning streak. NASDAQ is struggling a little bit, but that's more because of the tech sector than anything in politics. It is absolutely unfathomable that people are still going, oh my God, his presidency is going to be a disaster. No, take a good look at what he's accomplished. And this is 6 months in.
I agree. But you look at the answer, the retort from the Democrats, you got the mayoral race in New York City that our esteemed governor of Connecticut thought was just great. It's something to emulate. I think that speaks volumes of where the two parties are. You have the Trump party, which is the Republican party. He remade it. And then it used to be the fringe. Now this is the mainstream Democratic Party. Communist, anti-Semitic, let's cut the crap, anti-Israeli, and to some degree anti-American. That's just a fact.
The fact that this candidate actually won the Democratic primary is horrifying. However, I actually have a lot of, I don't want to say faith because I don't have any faith in the Democratic Party, but I have encouragement. Because the number of Democrats that have come out and said, we are going to throw everything at this man to make sure he never serves a day as mayor of New York. You've got Bill Ackman, who is a major Democratic fundraiser, pledging millions to make sure this guy never takes office. You've got Eric Adams, who now, I mean, he's running as an independent, because talk about the party leaving you, not you leaving the party. Eric Adams was a Democratic darling when he was elected. And the fact that he was actually doing things that worked, the whole party turned against him.
Yeah, because we always talked about this. And you're a Democrat, theoretical bullshit always trumps, no pun intended, actual accomplishments, a la AOC and the others. But I do believe, I'm sorry to say this, and I really am sorry to say this, I think he will get in because Adams and Cuomo are going to split the independent vote. He will get in. God bless New York City, but it will be you can make reel upon reel upon reel of messaging for 2026 from 2028 that will live in infinitum. How do you like that?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
the
don't
gift
know.
that keeps on giving.
I don't know that he's actually going to get in because he actually
I
has an
hope not.
I think he's got a bigger uphill battle than he thinks he does. Because yeah, he will take the elites in Manhattan, but there's no way he's carrying Staten Island. It's going to be very difficult for him to carry Queens. He's certainly going to lose a big part of Brooklyn and the Bronx. And I don't know that Cuomo and Eric Adams are going to split the independent vote. I think you're going to see the Democratic vote split three ways. I think Eric Adams will take the bulk of the Democrats. Remember, he wasn't even in the Democratic primary. So it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even an option to vote for him. And let's not forget, you still have Curtis Sliwa on the ballot. He ran against Adams and didn't do badly. Now, if these three split the Democratic vote, he may actually be able to take the victory lap.
You know something that's a very good analysis because people are probably scared shitless about, he's talking about defunding the police, blah, blah, blah. Freewell might actually pull it off because, hell, that. Rather have a
It's
life
possible.
preserver than.
I still think Sliwa is a long shot. Personally,
Of course.
my money's on Eric Adams for pulling out another term. But you know, the more he yells about defunding the police, a study just came out of all of these blue cities that refunded the police. And
Of course they did.
lo and behold, there's been a massive drop in crime when you refund the police.
Shocking,
Yes,
really, isn't it?
yeah.
But, we talked about Trump 2.0 and pushing back against his foes, the deep state media. Your analysis, please, about the Paramount lawsuit. They settled for at least 16, could be 30 mil. 60 minutes, what I used to watch. I haven't watched it in 20 years. I'm going to watch it this Sunday because I'm going to love Pelly's response.
Yeah,
it's going to be beautiful.
They officially settled for 16 million. Now, remember, this is not the first media settlement against Trump because ABC and Disney had previously settled because of Stephanopoulos overstepping his bounds.
Mm-hmm.
So you're starting to see the heads of the corporations looking at this going, all right, you know what? We've got to cut this off. We cannot go to court because we're going to lose.
Yep.
And they're realizing that the propaganda train is over.
Mm-hmm.
So
agreed.
It's going to be a major blow to the leftists in CBS News. It's why you've seen people leaving there. It's why you've seen people told they're leaving there. I always love when you see the announcements that such and such has tendered their resignation. And of course, it's not that they decided to resign, it's that they were told, you're resigning, you're out of here.
No, it's like being in corporate. Bob has left to pursue other options.
Yes.
Bobby was making $220,000. No, he's not pursuing other options to be a camp counselor at the YMCA.
Right. Yeah.
No, it's not pursuing other options. Sorry to break it to you.
But now, I mean, there's other things that go along with this. There has been a lot of talk. Paramount is actually right now in merger talks with Skydance Entertainment. And there's been a lot of accusations that the only reason they agreed to settle is because they don't want the DOJ stepping in to block the merger. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I think the DOJ will investigate the merger. Quite frankly, I've taken a look at the terms of this deal, and I don't think the DOJ has any reason to block the merger, forgetting about any settlement. Um, so I don't think that that was that big an issue. But you are now, and it's also part of a bigger trend because we are in July now, which means we are now officially done with Pride Month. Well, take a look at how many corporate sponsors stayed out of Pride Month this year.
How does everyone sound?
Yeah,
Even Target. Let's look at Target. Their big push over the last 2 years, Pride, done.
Yes.
A vacuum.
UPenn just came out with a statement going, all right, we apologize. We were wrong. This was not good. Harvard is now starting to talk with the administration saying, all right, uncle, you got us. We'll cooperate. This is all, and none of this has anything to do with any point of view. This has to do with what we started this conversation with. Dad has come home and the kids now have to behave.
100%. It was a free for all. No, you're right. Your young kid and the 17-year-old babysitter who was on the phone talking to his girlfriend or something, and everyone went crazy. And now the parents have come home, and it's, oh God, we better clean up the place. Correct?
Yep, that's exactly what's going on. The party is over, and now it's time to clean everything up. Because Dad came home and he's not happy about how you trashed the country.
100% well done. On kind of a, I'd say, less serious note, although it was very serious what happened. What is your thoughts on the P. Diddy? It looks like he's going to get 4 years. He's been, I believe, convicted of 2 of the lesser charges. I was talking with someone, 4 years in prison kind of sucks. And he's 56. I mean, you're talking pretty much game over. I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I don't feel sorry for the guy. But I wouldn't retry him. 4 years in a shithole. That's pretty good when you've been living in a $50 million house. I think that's pretty much a good punishment.
I don't know that they're going to retry him. This is a case where he was clearly guilty, but the state failed to meet the burden of reasonable doubt. And I was talking to a former prosecutor just a few days ago, not about P. Diddy. We're actually talking about the Karen Reed trial.
Yep.
And he said, the way the legal system is set up, if the state cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt, it does not matter if the person is guilty or not. They have to let him go. And I think that's what happened on these greater charges for Diddy. They did not meet the charge of beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, everybody knew that he was guilty. I mean, the stories have been ad infinitum, and they're
horrific, pretty bad.
Yes, and there are a lot more than what were actually presented in court. So, yes, he'll get off with the 4 years in prison, which I don't think is going to be a cakewalk for him.
No,
but it's also going to open him up to civil cases from all the people that were abused. I think that's going to do damage. I think his career is over.
Oh, goodbye. And also, hold on, baby oil sales are going to plummet while he's in prison. Don't get rid of Johnson & Johnson if it's in your portfolio, because basically it's going to be cut by a third.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking about cutting, investments. I think, quite frankly, if this socialist moron actually gets into office in New York City, everybody needs to invest in real estate in New Jersey and Connecticut, because the prices are going to go through the roof as everybody leaves.
if you were funny but true, if you
Yes.
were a real estate person in Fairfield County or Litchfield, I'm sorry, you want to put the country's best interests ahead of yourself, but you're a real estate agent in Litchfield, you would be foaming at the mouth waiting for that to happen.
Oh,
I don't think you
yes.
could answer all the calls.
Probably not. I mean, and this isn't just speculation. I can actually almost guarantee this will happen because we saw something very similar during COVID.
Yes,
Everybody was running to get out of New York City, which was a hot spot. And real estate prices in Connecticut and New Jersey went through the roof. I think you're going to see that again. And historically, we've seen this before back in the 1970s when all of the rich people went, you know what? This place has gone to hell. We're out of here. And the only person
true.
so far that is actually seems to be preparing for this possibility is the governor of Florida, who's already talking to businesses, going, no, move down here. We got your back.
I think that's very well done and pretty prudent. I think they could have a Wall Street South if it really plays out. The last topic is the hypocrisy of the left. You have Leonardo DiCaprio, like Bono and others, another high school dropout who claims expertise on global warming. The only thing he's an expert on is, we'll just won't get into that. But anyway, yes, he had the Bezos wedding, and he flew in like others to the wedding in his own private jet, but this time he had a baseball cap and blah, blah, blah. I don't think he was going to be playing second base that night. I think he was trying to hide himself. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is an old story. We see it all the time. Do as I say, not as I do. They want everybody else
Like
to
Bernie.
right. They want everybody else to cut back their emissions and they're flying around in private jets. You know what? If you want to be taken seriously on climate change, you should never be seen in a private jet. You should
There
be
you go.
you should be driving a hybrid. I'm not going to say you should be driving an EV because guess what? The electricity is generated by coal and oil. But
There you go.
you should be driving a hybrid. You should be living in a small apartment that doesn't require a lot of electricity, not a mega mansion like most of these folks are. If your carbon
Yeah, but how
footprint,
about you should be having a huge cruise ship with bimbos on it like DiCaprio?
right,
That might
if,
be a little eco
right,
non-friendly.
when your carbon footprint is greater than some towns, shut
Yeah,
your
there you
mouth.
go.
Yeah, shut your mouth about global warming.
Well, our listeners should not shut their mouth. They can voice their opinions on the show, can't they?
Yes, they can. We want to hear from you. Go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking. You can also message us at the Facebook Carnivore Radio Facebook page. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at the Carnivore Radio website, xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Great show. See you next week, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll see you then.